Whoa, what the fuck? That weird? That is weird. Look that up. All right, well, how's it going, folks? Just getting set up here, tying in all the loose ends. Let me triple check that video feed because I knocked it over to the side. That is so weird. I randomly just set that back in place and it's like a perfect, perfectly centered on it. So yeah, seems like we're pretty good. But minimize that. One thing I don't know is why it changed my screensaver or wallpaper automatically. I did not do that. All right, well, how's it going, guys? Appreciate your patience on getting the kinks worked out. Let me know if there's any audio or video problems so that I can adjust and get some of that worked out. As you know, I seem to have some technical difficulties, especially because recently my computer is needing to be fixed. I think I need to get some, I don't know if it's the RAM or the hard drive, but something needs to get replaced. And so I'm looking into doing that this next week. And unfortunately, it's going to involve me taking in the computer because I tried doing some updates and things like that to try to fix that, and it didn't seem to work. So on to the next troubleshooting step. So hopefully the computer doesn't crash, because that's one of the things that's been happening, which is very unfortunate. I'd be 10 minutes in or an hour into the podcast and it would just completely crash, and the whole video that was being recorded would be corrupted. And so that's pretty devastating when that happens. It actually hasn't happened on this one. I'm gonna cross my fingers and toes right now. It hasn't happened on this one in a while, but it seems to keep happening on mine and my daughter's podcast on the Dynamic Duo. So I don't know why, but bear with me as I work through these problems, and it's pretty frustrating because, like I said, it's a brand new computer and I should not be doing that. So anyways, here we are. I got a few things to talk about. I got a lot to talk about, but unfortunately I can't squeeze it all into this little 2-hour episode. And so I'm gonna do my best to touch base on some of the main things I wanted to talk about, and we'll just go from there. But first off, I want to let you guys know this is not a coronavirus podcast, but instead a podcast where we focus on thought-provoking topics, and of course including self-improvement being one of the main ones. So a lot of people think that because it's called The Virus, this is a podcast that revolves around the coronavirus or COVID-19, and although it seems, recently that seems to be a lot of a focus, or seems to keep kind of rearing its ugly face in our contagious combo, but it's not. Somehow it just keeps coming up, and it just seems right to talk about the certain things that are constantly evolving within the topic. And so here we are. So anyways, if you're not familiar with this podcast, you haven't been on it live while we're streaming, if you're checking this out on a recording, be sure to please give us a like, a follow, or subscribe. Share our page. We absolutely love that. I really appreciate the momentum and the love when you guys do that. It just takes a quick second of your time. Doesn't cost you anything, and you're really helping me out when supporting the page like that. And so, like I said, I really appreciate that. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Spotify, and Apple. So yeah, take a peek and go back. This is episode 56, so we got a lot of content. We started out with me and my nephew Danny doing, primarily 45 or 48 episodes, and so it's been me doing this solo now for I want to say a month or 2 months. Well, since October actually, or November maybe. It's been a while, so it's just been me acclimating myself into a solo podcast, which can be difficult because I got to sit here and talk for 2 hours straight and my mouth gets dry, which is why I always got tea. Aside from the fact that I actually love tea, by the way, and me and my daughter drink a lot of tea. She loves tea, and we do a tea time topic on our podcast where we kind of taste test different teas and flavors. But recently I've been getting into that loose leaf instead of the bags, and so putting it into a steel mesh strainer, or I don't know what you call those, something to steep it in. And it seems like the flavor, depending on where you get your loose leaf from, the flavor is much better, and it's healthier too. Apparently some of those bags, if you're not paying attention to what they're made out of, some of them got plastics in it, and so you're just dipping hot plastic and steeping hot plastic in your drink, and you can guess what happens when you're doing that and where it goes, and you're just drinking plastic. So, but this time I'm rocking the citrus flavor from a local tea company here in downtown Olympia called Encore. They got a lot of options there, so I like to keep going back there. And they also got a little chocolate place across the street, or across inside the store. It's basically two stores inside one, and right across the way they got some real gourmet chocolates that are from around the world, and they have a nice little vegan selection too. So pretty impressed with it. Kind of addicted. That's where me and my daughter go when we got a little extra time, and so she's always trying to get me to pop in there and get some chocolates for her. But anyways, let's get to this. We got a few things to talk about. Let's start with the contagious combo for today, and that's going to be about the vaccine. Unfortunately, it's going to be, COVID-19. So, but not just COVID-19. It's actually going to be about the new virus also. That's, what is that called? I'm going to have to flip this back and forth here a little bit. Variant. Variant. Yes, now I remember. Good old variant. You might have heard of it, but we'll get into that here in a second. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because, quite frankly, me personally, I'm annoyed of not only the lockdown and the economic shutdown, but just the amount of times I hear vaccine, coronavirus on the radio. I don't really watch the news, but I listen to the radio quite a bit because that's where I get a lot of my content from to review and to kind of give my analysis of. And so I hear it a lot on the radio, and quite frankly, I'm fucking tired of it. I hear it all the time, and to me it sounds like when I hear the vaccine, about the vaccine, when they're talking about the vaccine, it sounds like a well thought out pitch from a sales rep. And this is coming from someone who sells. I sell, I pitch, and I'm very familiar with the structure and the foundation of a sales pitch. When I hear the vaccine being promoted on the radio, it's structured in such a way to where it is being pitched heavily and being sold. And I know that every idea is a sales pitch, and if you break it down in technicality, everything's a sale, like I've mentioned before. But it just really feels like a propaganda pitch to me now, the more I hear it. And what I mean by that is it's structured in just a way by basically it'll create the fear. You start by creating the fear and the doubt, pointing out the things of what could happen. What if you don't do this, create doubt in a person's mind and get them scared. And that's how you start a pitch. Most pitches like that. I mean, the classic way of actually structuring a pitch usually has fear involved in it. And so it starts with the fear. It's also got the limiting factors, the scarcity of it. We're running out. Oh, we just got another batch of it, and that's only going to be available to X amount of people, and then we're going to be out of it again. So you've got that, where the limitation factor, and you got the urgency. So that's part of that. But the urgency is created, and urgency is really a very common sales tactic. And I'm going to call it tactic because I don't use that when I'm pitching. I try to be really authentic when I'm pitching and try to be upfront with people. The only time you'll ever hear a sense of urgency from my pitch is when it's for real. And what I mean by that is if the manufacturer, for instance, is telling me like, hey, if you don't get your orders in by this date, then the product is going to go up by 6 or 10%. That's a very real thing that's happened to me 3 times last year. And so I've been in a position where I've had to go to people after already selling them a job, or in the middle of selling them a job, and I have to tell them like, hey, if we don't get this order in by this date, it's going to be this amount. And so unfortunately, I've been put in that situation, but that's a very real scenario. It's not like I'll use another example of how sales reps and guys pitch. They'll use the sense of urgency as, there's a 10% discount, but it's only until the end of January. These are just self-created urgency tactics, sales tactics. And so I typically don't do that in my sales pitch at all, because for one, it comes off as unauthentic. I mean, you can justify it in your head and say, oh yeah, well, I did create this discount. It is only happening for this long. So I'm not lying about it. I'm not being deceitful about it, but it is created. The people who are selling a product make the price, make the discount, make the duration of the discount. It's all self-made. Everything's made up. Price is made up. Money is made up. It's all just a made up thing. And so I don't use that. But anyways, back to the vaccine, it's very much being pitched like a sale. And so I smell that shit a mile away. Me personally, I have not been interested in wanting to take the vaccine. I really don't vocalize that too much. I'm not out there. I'm not the type of person that talks more than I need to. And that's something my daughter has been getting a lesson in recently, especially because I'll take her on some sales appointments. And today, for instance, I took her on a sales appointment, and she kind of talks about a lot of personal information, a little too much. And I gotta kind of tell her, like, hey, Malia, reel it back a little bit. There's some things you shouldn't say, and it's kind of cute and funny. But for me, it's definitely cute and funny for the homeowner when my daughter says some exposing personal information. They're just like, oh God. I'm like, yeah, that's cute, but Malia, you probably shouldn't say that. So it's a funny lesson I have to teach her. But me personally, I'm very well aware of that. I don't talk more than I need to and just bury myself with overload of information. All right. And so, the vaccine is very much being pitched right now like a sale, and that bothers me, and it turns me off. I was already turned off by the fact of having to take the vaccine. When someone asks me, "Oh, are you going to get the vaccine?" I'm kind of uncomfortable talking about it, because I don't want them. I don't have time to debate with everybody or give them my personal opinion and hear their side. I don't mind that, but if I did that with every single person in my day, I can't. I just simply can't. I'm way too busy for that. So I don't get into it, and so I'm uncomfortable a little bit when they bring that up. And I'm just telling me, like, very, very straightforward and direct. No, I'm not going to get it. I don't think I need to. I'm gonna, if I haven't gotten it yet, which I already think I have, I'm just gonna get it the old-fashioned way and be immune that way. So there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. And so that's how I treat those type of conversations. But let's talk a little bit about this new virus that's been introduced into the news. I don't know how real it is, how fake it is, or whatever, but it's most certainly been introduced into the news and the media right now. You might have heard of it. It's called Variant. I just heard of it the last couple days, and boy, you want to talk about fear and doubt being created right now. They have just taken this whole concept of this pandemic and the fear and structure of this to a whole new level, and just keep snowballing and rolling with it. Now that we have a solution, according to, the CDC and the government, how to combat the coronavirus with this vaccine, right? This limited vaccine, of course. Now we got to come up with something new. We gotta create that fear so it doesn't die down. And what is the new fear? A new virus that's going to be, as they say, 33% more deadlier than the COVID-19 virus. As if we already didn't have enough fear put into the citizens. Let's give them, it's like, how far can we take this fear-based tactic with people? This is my personal opinion. I would love to hear your guys' comments and what you think about, the coronavirus, the vaccine, and then also this new virus, the variant that's been introduced. I would love to hear your thoughts. Not to argue with anybody, because I love I have an open mind, and so I might come off as strong as very opinionated, but I am very open-minded to hearing people's viewpoint, and that's exactly why I have a podcast going. It's so people can chime in. I know it's recorded, but I do encourage people to kind of riff with me a little bit, right? Give me your thoughts, give me your viewpoint, give me your perspectives. It's only interesting to me when you talk with amongst people about these different viewpoints. And so I'm very interested to know, are you scared? Are any of you scared? What is it that what are you scared of? How did the fear ever get introduced to you? What was the deciding factor to really put that fear in you heavily? If you're not scared, why not? I want to know if you agree with me. Why is that? So very interested in people's viewpoints and their thought process. That is that's what's entertaining, is kind of understanding and learning from each other. I very much appreciate learning from each other. So yeah, don't be scared. Chime in. That's what this is for. Even if you're listening to the recording later on, you can always comment on there. I'll get your comments. I'll respond to it. I'm pretty efficient and prompt at doing that. And so, yeah, let's hear it. But let's talk a little bit more about this variant thing, this variant virus that they're introducing. The problem I have is it just feels like they're setting the tempo and the pace for how long they want this bullshit to go on, right? They've already said that basically, from what I've heard, this whole year is shot. This is before the variant even was introduced. They said, if people take the vaccine, they said it's going to basically be the way it is right now with the economic shutdown until summertime. Then they went on to say that if everybody who doesn't want to take the virus converts and ends up making that decision take the vaccine rather, converts and ends up deciding to take that vaccine around summertime, then by December, we're going to finally start to see the numbers drop and we might get back to normal by the end of the year. So already they set the tempo and the pace to make this whole year fucking shot. It's going to be, you thought last year was bad, this year's going to be bad. In my opinion, if it goes the way they said it would, and if they keep approaching this the way they have been. And so I am kind of scared, not even necessarily for me, for everybody as a general, for the economy, for people, for small business owners, for, the middle class, if there is a middle class left. I'm truly getting scared now because I can see the fear blanket just being put over everybody, and everybody buys it. That's the most disturbing part for me, is that everybody buys this shit without looking into anything, without actually fact checking from credible resources, not just hearing something and running with it. And so that's what scares me too, is that a lot of us are just drones, and unfortunately a lot of us don't really put a lot of thought into our own or create our own thought process. We kind of take someone else's statements and their rhetoric and we parrot it. And we're all guilty of that to some extent, but at least process what you're being told and what you're hearing and vet it. Go to those credible resources, seek out credible resources, seek out peer-reviewed topics, and validate some of this shit instead of just parroting it to the next person and planting a seed of fear from the next one person to the next as we go. Give me 1 second. My mouth is dry here. Going on a riff. All right. So again, like I said, they're setting that tempo, they're setting that pace for how long they want this shutdown to go. So the way it's going already, it's going to eat into next year, at this tempo anyway. And so, who the hell, what I'm wondering is, there is an agenda here. I don't know what it is. Who the fuck benefits from this besides, Zucks and Bezos? We know that they're doing fantastic right now. Everybody's moved to a digital world because they're sitting at home for the majority of the economy. And so they're doing fantastic. They're blowing up, right? But who the hell is benefiting besides them? I wish I was smart enough to understand who's benefiting from this. It's going to probably take a while to be exposed, if it ever is exposed. It's definitely politically geared and driven. I just don't know how. So I think that's going to be exposed eventually. I don't know when. It might not be. Hopefully it's soon. It might not be for 2 years. Might not be for 5. Might not be for 10. You know, it could be one of those things that next year we find out, you know, people behind this were lying a lot about things. Or it might be something 10 years later they find out, oh, come to find out this person did this, you know, after they're already dead or something. So let's just hope it doesn't go too long and destroy this economy for too long the way this is going, because this is fucking bananas right now, guys. And again, I am starting to get a little worried about everybody as a whole, not necessarily myself. I believe in myself, powering through any situation. I've been through some shit and I will be through some shit and I'm ready for it. So I'm not really necessarily scared for my fear, because I mean I am scared, but not the way I handle it is much different than other people. So I'm more scared for everybody as a whole. So this is what I'm really scared about, actually. When we start, so I've already had a problem with vaccines. The fact that they're mandatory, especially in schools, I always had a problem with that. And again, there's probably some people that might hear that and say, whatever, you know, I get it. There's some haters with that, and some people don't understand. I think the minority of people who are when it comes to vaccines, the minority in that group is the people that don't approve of taking vaccines. I understand that. The majority of people, you know, understand that those viruses were very real and that they're under the impression they have to continue taking these vaccines until they die or whatever, every 5 years, every 10 years, or how often it is. I personally haven't had a vaccine shot in about 15 plus years, any type of vaccine shot. The common cold, whatever, the swine flu, the Spanish flu, whatever, measles and mumps, whatever you can think of, I haven't taken it. I haven't had a shot in 15 years at least. And so I'm fine. And I understand there's people that are more vulnerable than me too. So I'm not saying it's for everybody, and it might not be the solution for everybody. But me personally, I'm not interested. But what I'm saying is, what's really scaring me is when that becomes mandatory, especially in schools. When I already lucked out with my daughter being in school because she already had these shots. You know, not with me. I never took her in to get a shot. It was always with her mom or her grandma or someone else that took her in to get the shot, and it always bothered me. But she's up to date on all her shots, and that's why she's in a public school. When it comes time for her to renew her shots, or when it comes time for Biden and the government to make the COVID-19 vaccine mandatory for schools and whatever else, it's probably going to come to me homeschooling her. I'm not going to be forced to have to give her a vaccine. What's up, dude? A tetanus shot? Yeah, you know, I haven't had one in a minute. What's up, by the way, bro? It's good to see you, dude. I feel like you're definitely probably not in agreement with a lot of what I'm talking about, which is totally fine, because I still love you, and you're still my bro. But the tetanus shot, again, I don't know, man. I've been cut. I've sliced my hand open on a rusty screw before. And I had a tetanus shot, but we're talking years ago. It was over 15 years ago, so I'm pretty sure you got to do it every so often. So, and I'm in that industry where, you know, I'm a carpenter, although I haven't really done the manual labor a lot, where I put myself in a situation where I'm slicing my hand off and cutting myself, but I've definitely done some shit to my body. Well, no, I take that back. I did drill the top of my thumb with a drill bit last year, which is pretty idiotic. But it happens, you know what I mean? It was the one day I had both my gloves in one truck, and I was like, you know what? I'll just deal with it instead of taking the time driving to the store, getting a pair of gloves. Took the risk and just freaking annihilated my hand. But yeah, no, unless there's a reason why. I've never had a bad experience with being, is it every 7 years? Okay. The one shot you've gotten in about 16 years. Oh, okay. Yeah, again, I I don't know. I don't think it's necessary, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm knowledgeable enough about why the tetanus shot is yeah, right. Well, it's a classic mistake, but that's the first time I've ever done that. So, I've been doing this type of work for 15 years, and it just takes one time. I say that all the time. It just takes one bad time. You deviate from your safety, and that's all it takes, man. And so that's why I'm usually really big on safety. And I broke my own rule that one day, and I paid for it. So it's life teaching me that lesson. You know what I mean? That classic lesson. Like, there you go. You think you're above this? Gotcha. So yeah, man, it got me pretty good. But yeah, I have to research the tetanus shot because, like I said, I'm almost certain I'm due for it. It's just I don't know how mandatory it is, and so I gotta fact check it and get some credible resources to validate if it's serious, what it's for, if it is necessary, all those things. Yeah, you're talking about the Archer Hotel that we did. Yeah, and you had a little piece of that action too, I remember now. So and by the way, in case you guys don't know what Edgar's talking about, we built a commercial job on top of like a $50 million hotel in the Redmond, Washington area. And it was a massive project. And so I was taking a little bit of risk there. That was the first commercial job I've done in years. So I honestly didn't know much about safety. Although once it was brought to my attention, fall arresters and all these things, we were doing it. So we were following all the safety protocols. There were some things that were just crazy, but that type of job, there's just no way to not be crazy. You know what I mean? It was just one of those intense, massive jobs. But it was that was a good experience, man. And just so you know, I just passed there. God, it was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago when I drove by to go do a bid in Redmond. And you can see that. I don't know if you've been up there ever since we've done that job, but as you're passing on the freeway there, you can just look over and see it from the freeway, and it still looks beautiful, man. That's a really impressive job that we did there. So yeah, I won't forget that, dude. Thanks for your help, actually. Yeah, definitely a lot of fun, man. Definitely there was a lot of what would you call that, training your mind. That's a great training ground. That type of job is perfect for training your mind to power through elements and power through shit, uphill stuff that's constantly fighting you, shit that's constantly a head scratcher. I mean, it was the opposite of a straightforward job. So yeah, one of those type of jobs are pretty intense, man. And I've only done a couple since that one, and I actually got a commercial job coming up that's about that size over in Yelm now. And so pretty excited for that, since I've been marketing towards restaurants and any type of business has been struggling because they have to keep everything outdoors. And so yeah, business has been doing really good. Yeah, man, it was a great experience because of that. And so I was already used to that type of stuff, but that caliber of a job took it to the next level, with the scissor lifts on top of a rooftop, jacking up 3x8 beams that are 40 feet long. And yeah, using framing to temporarily hold it in place while you drill and stuff and together through steel. There was a lot of techniques and tricks that needed to be utilized on that job to make sure that it came together. So I'm glad you remember that, man. But yeah, back to what I was talking about with the variant. I'm just upset and worried that, it's not enough with the coronavirus. Now they got to introduce this new virus, the variant. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, you're talking about the job, right? Yeah. That was one thing I was really good at, man, is on a job site, if you're talking about the job anyway, is I'm really good at troubleshooting and coming up with solutions on the spot. And it might not be quick, it might not be that day, but I will always find a way, in some way, to overcome the task at hand. And I've always been good at doing that. No matter how hard it is, no matter how long it takes, I will overcome a task and I will punch right through an obstacle. And it's only until recently in the last couple of years that I've really taken that aspect 10 times, pardon the pun, 10 times more than I used to. Oh, basically, by the way, if you guys aren't familiar with 10X, Grant Cardone is the guy that, he got me into that mindset and that type of thinking, and the whole concept behind the 10X movement is that nothing is ever going to work out unless you do everything 10 times the amount. So if you do something once, twice, or 3 times, it's never going to be enough. If you're looking for some serious results and progress, you need to do everything you do 10 times the amount. 10 phone calls and then 10 more after that. 10 times. I mean, it's hard to put into into perspective, but basically just think of everything that you want to be successful at, which I hate using that word now because success is just this promised land and this idolized word. So if you want to just be constantly improving, put 10 times the amount in. So pardon the pun, but yeah, it has really changed my life, taking that to the next level these last couple of years. So so you're saying you're gonna get back to listening. I'm teaching myself sewing machine. Right on, dude. Nice. Teaching yourself sewing machine. Oh, you're teaching yourself how to sew with a sewing machine? Shit, dude. That's like something I learned in home ec, and I would never remember how to do that. I remember I made a stuffed animal, though, in home economics in my sophomore year. One of the cool things about home economics, besides actually cooking some food, and that was really cool, the worst thing about that class was watching STDs, very vivid pictures of people with their genitalia inflamed and rashed and oversized and swollen and disgusting as hell. So those memories will stick with me until I die. I couldn't believe they were showing me that in school. But anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to. I think I'm going to move on to the next topic. I kind of covered a lot there with the coronavirus, with the variant, how the propaganda of the vaccine is really being treated like a sales pitch. And again, this is coming from a sales rep. I've studied sales. I've studied how the mind works. I've studied how people process those steps, how those steps work in a sales process, because it is a procedure. And every time I hear this on the radio, it is very much a sales procedure. So let's pay attention to that. And let's hope that we're not being deceived. Okay. I really hope for everybody who's taken that vaccine, nothing bad happens, and that no one's deceived or misinformed about anything, because that's what I really worry about. And so, me personally, I have a hard time trusting the government. And so, for people to just immediately trust the government or Fauci or Trump or Biden, I don't like either or. I can tell you when we're talking about politics, I would probably like Trump better, unfortunately. And that means a lot. That's saying a lot, because I'm not a big Trump fan either. But I think he's probably going to do better than Biden, especially here in, let's not even, God, I didn't even put that down as a topic. The gas prices. Oh, God, don't get me started on that. So I'm going to write this down so we can talk about it. But in case you guys didn't know, they've raised gas prices or they're going to raise gas prices here. There was a bill passed to raise them in Washington State, and we are now going to be the highest priced gas in the whole United States of America, by like 38 cents per gallon, I want to say. And so, yeah, congratulations, guys. This is the best time. Isn't it how fucked up how the economy gets shut down, and during the time that it gets shut down, everything goes up. From my manufacturers, I had a raise in price 3 times, and not even talking about the lumber industry that has risen 130% more. So just that all last year, and then right here at the very tip of the next year, guess what we get? Gas prices going up. Property taxes are gonna go up. Just taxes up the fucking yin yang, and we already get enough taxes. Trust me, I'm so much tax. I got taxes up to my eyeballs. I'm paying so much fucking taxes on my business. So not a fun thing. We can talk about that in another episode, since I already got some stuff already established. So let's move on down to the next topic, and let's switch gears here a little bit. I'm going to talk about let's see here. Whoop, wrong page here. Yes, we're going to switch gears and talk a little bit about MMA right now. So hopefully we got some MMA fans and anybody who appreciates the sport. It's a pretty hardened sport, and some people, I get it, it's not for everybody. But I haven't had time to really religiously watch UFC, or I don't know if Pride Fighting Champions still exists. I wish it does, because I love that better than UFC. But as someone who was heavily into that from the beginning of it, back in, the Hoist Gracie and Ken Shamrock and Don Fry and Boss Rutan and Mark Coleman, Gary Goodridge days, I was heavily into UFC and watched every single fight ever that was on tape. We bought all the tapes and watched it, me and my buddy Little Josh and Bill and Theo and everybody else that was with us. So yeah, we loved it. So let's talk about the Poirier and McGregor fight in light of the fight that's happening today, because today is the rematch of Poirier and McGregor, and I want to give you my thoughts on that and my prediction on it too, and hopefully I'm accurate. So first of all, I like McGregor. I also like Poirier. I like Poirier better though. Sorry, McGregor fans. I understand that there's a ton of diehard Conor McGregor fans out there. I get it. He's good. He's skilled. He does have a well-rounded game. But I don't know. I'm always weird. For some reason, I don't take an interest in the unorthodox fighters as much as I do with the well-rounded and the well-grounded and traditional stable fighters, the ones that utilize the foundation of fighting, meaning they're not, I like a little bit of unorthodox styles introduced, and what I mean by that is maybe switching from southpaw to regular stance. I like stuff like that because that just shows being ambidextrous and being well-rounded more. But I'm just talking about like weird stances and like crawling on the ground and like doing, weird shit like that. Which Conor McGregor, to me, has a really weird wide stance, which seems to be effective. I mean, like I said, the guy's really good. I'm not talking shit about him at all. It's just me personally, when I see that, I don't know why. It just doesn't interest me. I see a guy like Poirier. He's a very solid guy who has a well-rounded structure and a good foundation, and he doesn't deviate much from his game, what he's good at. And so, give you my history on Poirier. I think he's one of the best stand-up fighters in UFC, personally. I always liked his boxing skills. The guy seems to know how to find the target, and he knows how to shift and move. He's really good, in my opinion, and particularly at the stand-up game. He's not the best wrestler, and I think he could also utilize the kicks a little bit more. So I think he could improve on his well-rounded game, his stand-up game, by utilizing a little more kicks. Not even necessarily by landing kicks. When I say utilizing kicks, maybe just utilizing them in a way to set up the punch and the combos, because that's what he's good at. He's a good boxer. So if he could figure out a way to really, and he does do kicks all the time, but I think he could really just be an unstoppable force if he can really combine the two very effectively. And so I'm not sure if he has yet. I wish I wish I could see that fight tonight. I'm definitely going to check it out here when we get done, and see what the results were. But let me give you my opinion on the first fight. When I watched that, I think it ended in like 45 seconds or 90 seconds or something quick. It was definitely a minute and a half or something really quick. So when I was watching that, exactly what I was talking about these two fighters was actually happening. All right. Poirier was really just sticking to what he was good at, sticking and moving, boxing. He landed maybe one or two good punches on Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was having some really good stand-up game that night too, and utilizing the kicks very well. He's got really good kick game, and that's the thing that's good about McGregor, is that he's very good at distracting you with his well-rounded game, and that's why I think Poirier, where Poirier can improve on with the kicks and punch combination, because when Conor McGregor does that and he's landing some roundhouses and even throwing some stuff that's not effective, but still when Poirier knows it's coming at him, it distracts him from not knowing if it's a kick or a punch coming. And so McGregor's good in that regard at setting up the surprise hits that you don't see coming. And so when I watched that though, so Poirier lost, in case you guys didn't know that. Poirier lost that fight, and I was pretty upset about that. When I seen it really surprised me that he dropped, because I didn't see much of anything landing. And then when you watch it in slow-mo, he very much didn't land. So Conor McGregor threw an overhand left, I want to say, and Dustin Poirier kind of ducked down. And as he did that, the punch really just grazed the side of his head. Okay. And to me, it looked like it was not effective at all. Well, Poirier dropped to the ground, not as though it didn't look like he was even hurt. It looked like I don't know what he was doing. I think what he was trying to do was get attention from, because apparently this is what he was talking about after the fight too, is, McGregor hit him in the ear or something, like back of the head or something like that. And so he was trying to do a dramatic foul call type, what I would call a dramatic foul. You've seen that in basketball when there's a foul drawn and you got the dude that's receiving the foul being so dramatic, and he throws his arms up in the air and just loses his balance and just dramatizes the foul, right? Which is fucking silly to me. When I see that, I'm just like, dude, you should have been an actor, man. Always funny when people try to dramatize the foul. And so I think he was looking for, I don't know if Herb Dean was the ref, whoever it was, he was looking for them to stop the fight, I think. And he just kind of sat there on the ground and took two really hard punches to the side of the head after that. Now those two did daze him pretty damn good. Whether or not it knocked him out, I don't think so, because he rolled on his back and was still, in my opinion, able to defend himself. I think the ref stopped it too early. Poirier is a fucking beast. Yeah, he's a warrior. He can take some punishment, so he should have the ref should have let that go a little bit longer to at least give him a chance to defend himself, because I think that would have went a completely different direction had Poirier got back to his feet and or just weathered the storm. So that being said, I think he learned a lot from that lesson. Let's hope so, because I think this fight, I'm very confident that he's going to win this fight. Poirier doesn't really, his fights don't usually go to decision. He's a stand-up fighter, as they say, the term goes in UFC. He likes to stand and bang, right? So yeah, I think he's going to learn from his mistake. And by the way, I don't recommend dramatizing any type of foul, because that's exactly why. If that in fact is what he was doing, you make yourself vulnerable. Stay in the fight. And I've had to learn this type of thing because of, in a different fashion. What I mean by that is like the perfectionist in me, which annoys me, which I know is not very effective, but the perfectionist in me, when I'm doing something and working through something and I make a mistake, I'll tend to shake my head or something in disappointment to myself, as though I'm talking shit to myself a little bit, because that motivates me. But it's not good, because it telegraphs to the other person your disappointment and what you're doing and where your head is at, and allows the other person to kind of take over some mental space in your mind at that point, and makes you vulnerable, and not in a good way. Vulnerability is good, but in that context, not good. And so I recommend, and I've been taught to just not do that. Power through it, get through it. You can critique yourself and analyze yourself after the fact, and look at, especially if there's video, whatever it was, you can most certainly do that. 1 second here, let me drop this notification. So, yeah, I never recommend doing that. You need to stay in the fight, whether it's no matter. And when I know we're talking literally about fight, but anything in life, if you make a mistake at something, don't telegraph it. Don't let it be known you made a mistake. I still do this sometimes, and it bothers me, and I'm still working at this myself, because it's distracting, and trying to be a perfectionist at something is very ineffective. You're never going to be perfect at something. All you need to do is improve, and try to be the best you can. You're never going to be perfect, but what you can do is be better, and that's what the focus needs to be. So that was just my little tidbit on, people dramatizing fouls or looking for something to be stopped or someone to come save you or something of that nature. You need to power through that, man, and weather the storm, and go to work, do what task needs to be done at hand. So anyways, before I spend too much time on this review, I was pretty upset about the first fight. I think Poirier is really going to redeem himself on this one, which is going to be tough. McGregor is not an easy opponent. He is a solid fighter, and he's well-rounded. I would say he's more well-rounded than Poirier, but I don't know. Maybe Poirier has worked on his well-rounded game and his kicking skills and his side steps and evasion skills. I don't know. This could be a very different fight, and I think Poirier can really be unstoppable if he actually has worked on some of that stuff. But I'll tell you what, if it was just a stand-up game between Conor McGregor and Poirier would dominate that. He's just got better hands. He just does. It's more controlled. It's more tight. McGregor's throws a lot of wide throws, so it's just if it comes down to that, Poirier is going to dominate it. And so, anyways, that's my prediction. Hopefully I'm right. Best of luck to both fighters. We'll see what happens, all right? And then we'll review that later on. So let's move on, though, to the next topic, and that is going to be the viral viewpoint of this episode, all right? The viral viewpoint for today is going to be about when I heard... Okay, so it's going to be about a little bit about the protesters and the economic shutdown, but it's mainly going to stem from me hearing Kim Wyman, who is the Secretary of Washington State, Kim Wyman's speech that I heard her talk about on the radio. Before I get into that, let me wet my beak here with some tea. Oh man, that's good. Yeah, that's some... I'm not a big citrus flavor guy, but that citrus tea, man, it's just like so mellow, and it's just the right amount of citrus in it that it's just not overwhelming. So, man, yeah, I can really get down on this one. It's been a while since I had it, so I forgot. All right. So anyways, let's get right to this. When I was listening to the radio, I heard Kim Wyman being interviewed on there, okay? She was talking about, and again, she's Secretary of State. If you don't know, we're here in Washington. I'm here in Washington. She was asked why, they were talking about, how the Olympia state capitol, well, first they were talking about the nation's capital over in Washington, D.C., and how that got invaded, and, that whole tragedy happened, which is very unfortunate. It's really sad that came to that. And so, or that happened rather. I don't know why it, came to that, but, and of course we have all have our opinions, and we can kind of get into that a little bit, but Kim Wyman was asked, why she thought the insurrection, as they call it, happened. Why does she think that insurrection happened? And her answer to that was they were using Olympia because over here at the state capitol they also were trying to get aggressive and get inside as well. And that's a whole nother topic, which I'll probably jot down these ideas because I'm gonna scrape the surface on that also. So 1 second. Before I lose this thought, it's like Memento. I'll lose the thought if I don't write it down. What was the National Guard for particular? Okay. All right. So she was asked why she thought the insurrection happened and what motivated that. Her answer is much like a lot of the liberals and some of the Republicans as well. Her answer was very simple, simply this. She said that Trump and a lot of other people incepted and emphasized that the election was rigged. And she thinks, her opinion that was the primary reason why the nation's capital was invaded and why we had people breach the Capitol and why we had 5 or 6 people die. I don't know what the number was, which is a complete, it's sad. There's no way around it. That's sad that happened and it shouldn't have happened. Now, I don't think personally that you've heard me talk a little bit about this in the last couple episodes. I think the accountability being dumped all on Trump is ridiculous. I also don't think that the main reason that happened was because Trump incepted people. I'm going to go a little bit deeper than that. I'm going to go a little bit back in history as well. And I'm going to give you my opinion and my thought process as to why I think that insurrection happened, leading up to it and the build up and why this is going on. All last year, it's no what would you call that? It's no guess. Everybody knows what was going on last year with the protesting in Seattle and Portland particularly, and other states as well. Seattle and Portland became like 2 of the beacons for mass protesting and violence with the Black Lives Matter movement. And that was mainly it, the Black Lives Matter movement. And then, it just turned into the defund the police movements. It was just a lot of protesting going on. And we'll talk a little bit about a different layer of that here after I'm done talking about Kim Wyman. But going back last year, we already had angry people. So my thought on why people are protesting in the first place is because of the economic shutdown. I think it is literally 2 things combined. You got the economic shutdown. People are pissed off. They're not able to make the money they want. They don't know what they're going to do. There's a lot of despair. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of things they just don't know. And they're pissed. Now that they're pissed, you got a bunch of people. Because what happens with an economic shutdown and the majority of the middle class? They don't know what to do. They're not working. They're at home. And what does that mean? They got a lot of time on their hands. Time is the key word I'm using here. There's a lot of extraordinary time going on. You combine extraordinary amount of time with pissed off people and an economy that's just failing and angry. You get those 2 together, and that's a perfect recipe for an insurrection, as they call it, and protest and violence and Molotov cocktails being thrown at cops getting bashed in the back of the head with bricks. All that shit's fucking disgraceful to me, and uncalled for. I don't think it ever should have got to that level. It should have been a peaceful protest, as everybody kept calling it. It was never that. It was hardly ever that. Let's put it that way. There was a couple peaceful protests, but hardly ever was it that. And so I think it's no different when it came down to the specific incident over at the nation's capital. that was not primarily because of Trump incepting people, or as the politicians like to call it, inciting insurrection. There might be a small sense of that. Sure, you might, if you're looking to give him some accountability on some level, sure, throw 10% of the accountability on him. Whatever. But it's definitely not the primary reason, all right? You've already got a full year of people that are pissed off right now. And like I already said, not only are they pissed off, but they have way too much time on their hands. Way too much time on their hands. They're not working. They don't have money. And they're pissed. So that is the primary reason why that happened. That is my personal opinion. And honestly, I'm very passionate about that, because I really hate when people try to throw accountability on one person and they try to really just focus in on one person. First of all, we got way too many people that don't take enough accountability in their own lives as it is. And usually those type of people are the ones that try to cast out accountability on the other people, on other individuals. And so as someone, as you know, me, as someone who has a disgusting amount of accountability, and what I mean by that is I look for ways to hold myself accountable even when I might not be accountable, because it's a good growth process for me. As someone who lives their life like that, I really can see that shit. I feel like I can read that quite a bit. And I could be wrong. I have been wrong. I am wrong sometimes. But on a ratio percentage basis, I usually am right. I usually end up being right in general. I'm not saying I'm right all the time, obviously. But my batting average is better than my strikeout average. That's a fact. And so I like to stick within that, and I like to trust my own instincts a lot of the time. So that is my personal opinion, though. You've just got that build up for a whole year. And I already called this. If you go back to one of the episodes, back in October, maybe even before that, I was talking about how shit was going to hit the fan after the election. I said it. I said no matter what happens, shit was going to hit the fan after the election. I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. But I would say, if anything, that's part of shit hitting the fan. The nation's capital being breached like that, and potentially more people dying. And we did have people that died, innocent people. And so I called that shit. And I think a lot of people called it too. So it doesn't take a genius to see things like that coming. It doesn't take a genius to also go back in time to figure out why things might have happened. You're not going to be, there's no exact answer, but in general, you can take instances, you can take outcomes, you can take situations and piece it together, much like an investigation. You just take the facts. And again, I have a hard time not laughing when I say facts, because all I can think about is Biden's statement about, oh my God, what did he say? We'll get into that too, maybe a little bit if I have time, but his statement where he was like, it's about science and, oh God, I think I wrote that down somewhere. What did he say? Good Lord, that was hilarious. It's about, here we go. He said it's about science over fiction. It's about, we choose truth over facts. And so forgive me, every time I say facts, I think of his statement where he says we choose truth over facts. It's fucking ridiculous. The truth are the facts. So to try to sit there and separate those two, it definitely shows either the unintelligence that man has, or he just might have not been thinking when he was speaking, which I think can happen quite a bit. Unfortunately, when you're a politician, you're on the spotlight quite a bit, and so everything you say is chronicled and can be put into a montage. But again, out of Biden and Trump, I'm more unimpressed with Biden, and so I'm kind of worried with the way this nation's going to go now that guy's our leader. That's pretty scary. But yeah, when I say facts, I can't stop thinking about the statement. He says we choose truth over, or excuse me, we choose truth over facts. It just doesn't make sense. But going back to what I was saying without digressing even more, I truly believe that the whole what the catalyst for the nation's capital being breached and people dying there, and that violence and that aggression, the catalyst for that is because of the economic shutdown, right? And then to furthermore break that down, because of that economic shutdown, you got pissed off people that have way too much time on their hands. Combine that too, and you got a fucking volcano waiting to erupt. That's my analysis. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. You know, tell me I'm fucking crazy. Tell me I'm out of my mind. Tell me I might be a little right. Tell me I might be onto something. I'd like to hear some thoughts on that. You know, what people, and if you don't agree with what I said, I'd like to know what you think the primary reason. If you were asked the same question Kim Wyman was, what was the primary reason for the capital's, the nation's capital being breached like that and people dying in that amount of violence? What was the main catalyst for that? And are you the type of person that thinks about in the moment, one statement, one person, or are you the type of person that goes back a little bit in time to the beginning of the journey of how that came to be? I'm interested to know. So that is my viral viewpoint for today's topic. And before I move on, actually, let's just extend the viral viewpoint a little bit more. I want to talk a little bit about, since we're on politics, again, I don't know how I keep getting webbed into the politics because I fucking hate politics, but the way this nation is going, the way this country is right now, you can't get away from it. It's part of our life now. They've made us be involved in it now. Before, you could just be like, I don't vote. I'm not into politics. I don't pay attention to it. I don't watch the news. And I'm that way. But I've been reeled into this just because it involves me a lot more too, especially as a small business owner with the taxes going up and all these things and the protesting. All that stuff affects me a little bit more than it used to when I was actually, well, at least it's brought to my attention a little bit more. Of course, it probably affected me the same way when I was just a middle-class worker for a business as well, but it really impacts me now even more. And so here we are. I'm talking about politics on a podcast that I swore I would never talk politics about. So but anyways, let's talk a little bit about our Washington State governor here. That guy is what a stellar guy, right? Hopefully I don't get canceled on this episode and this podcast for talking about him, but I am not impressed with him at all. I never paid attention to the man at all, but like I said, now as a small business owner, I sympathize for other small business owners, and I especially sympathize for the middle class people and just the average everyday human that is working to try to make ends meet. This is a guy who does not care. He doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself or other politicians. It's very clear. And it's only because I've actually listened to other people talk about him that it's come to my light and has put things into perspective and has made sense. So just using the example, here's an example of why I think he just doesn't give a shit. And I've heard these statements. I heard him talking back when those BLM movements and all those protests were going on, what I was just talking to you about, how Molotov cocktails were being thrown at police. How, you know, you've seen the video where the police had a brick thrown at a Seattle cop who had a brick thrown at the back of his head, got knocked out cold. That was just fucking disgraceful, man. You know, just because there's a couple bad seeds of cops that committed atrocious crimes, now all the cops got put in a box and got all the anger got directed at them, and innocent cops were just fucking violated and traumatized from that. That is just fucking wrong, in my opinion. These are, I mean, I'm not crazy about cops either, but I do have a level of respect for them because it's not an easy job. I'm not talking about the cops that got a job to just posture and be in a position of power because they were bullied in school or whatever, and that's just their way of being in a position of power. I'm talking about the authentic cops that actually care about people and serving and protecting people for the greater good. of the actual economy and the local community. So I do have a level of respect for them. So when I seen those type of videos and I heard the defund movement and all that, it didn't make any sense to me. All right, the focus was being put in the wrong places, and so I'm getting sidetracked. But the reason why I was bringing that up, when all that was going down, here Jay Inslee is saying, along with who else was it? There was another politician saying this as well. They said, you know, when all those businesses downtown Seattle were getting broken into and people were shooting everybody and all this stuff I was just talking about was going on, he flat out made a statement that we are not going to pull in the National Guard. We are not going to do that. And I can't remember what his reasoning for it was. It was so ridiculous. I don't even remember what it was, because I didn't even want to compute that nonsense, if that makes sense to you. You know, when someone says something so stupid, you don't even want to retain it. That's what it was when he said, we are not going to bring in the National Guard because of such and such and such. I mean, I checked out as soon as he said that, because I was just like, why would he say that? Like, when would you bring the National Guard in? And so guess what happens? Downtown Olympia Capitol gets, you know, potentially breached as well. I think they might have breached that too. Guess what happens now that okay, so Jay Inslee didn't give a shit about the small business owner, the actual civilians, but as soon as the politician's home and the governor's mansion gets raided and gets breached by protesters, guess what happens? We need to call in the National Guard. $1.6 million I heard was dumped into bringing the National Guard over to the Capitol, and they put fencing all around the area. Like, there was a high level of backup from the National Guard and Jay Inslee once it was in his front door. And that's just one clear example of how that man doesn't give a fuck about the civilians, the small business owners, and the people in general. He just doesn't. I'm telling you. He didn't do anything about it when people were just being destroyed and shit was burning and the city was being torn apart, literally. But as soon as it comes to his front door, guess what? Oh, we need to do something about this. This has gotten out of hand. Fucking hypocrite, right? And again, it bothers me because I don't even want to think about politics. I don't even want to be involved in this shit. But people that are disingenuous and just have a agenda and a motive and are very self-centered and self-absorbed bother me really bad. That man is self-absorbed, and he's shown that many times. Edgar, he said if they wanted to help people, they'd become nurses, paramedics, and firefighters. I agree, but who are you talking about? They? Are you talking about the National Guard, or are you talking about Inslee? Because you're right. If anybody wants to help anybody, they should. Yeah, absolutely. It should be a nurse or a paramedic or a firefighter. But yeah, that whole scenario, dude. Let me know what you think about Jay Inslee, man. Oh, cops. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know what you mean by that. Let's just say you got a cop that's been a cop for 20 years. Or you mean it would be wise for a cop to switch his profession after 20 years or something like that? Is that what you mean? Quite literally? Because I think a cop put in a situation where he had to perform some kind of medical CPR training. I think a good cop would do that. And, the good cops are very apparent. It's very apparent when someone in general, not even talking about cops, in general, when they want to help somebody, they're going to help somebody. All right. The bad seeds that are bad are going to be exposed, like they were when they killed George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all those cops. Definitely bad seeds. All right. They were not trying to help somebody. It's very obvious, right? Yeah. So that being said, you wouldn't want a cop to be a nurse or a paramedic then, because they're not trained for it. So you wouldn't want, if you're saying Yeah. You mean when it's, oh, they only help when it's caught on video? Is that what you're saying? You don't like cops, or do you like cops in general? Let me ask that question so I know where you're coming from, because it's hard on reading text without, you know, the tone and stuff, where you're coming from. So I'm curious to know. I don't know what that acronym is, man. Help me out. ACAB. ACAB's that new band? All cats, all balloons. All cats are big. Sounds like a new metal band, dude. Bro, you're smarter than that. That is a really what would you call that? That's a not arrogant, ignorant. That's an ignorant statement, my man. And that's coming from a place of love, dude. Like, that's not even statistically possible to say that all cops are bastards. Like, I don't know what the percentage is, you know, but there's definitely a percentage of good cops and bad cops. I don't know what that is, but I would like to think that it's more than bad cops, personally. Now, what qualifies as bad? You know what I mean? Obviously the worst of the worst, but where does that line draw? Because I have suspicion also that there's a good amount of cops that are just cops because they want to be in a position of power and not necessarily help people. So I'm on board with that to a certain point. I definitely don't think all cops are bastards. I think there's a percentage of cops that are bastards, which makes more logical sense. Okay, so there are unjust laws they are sworn to uphold. And if they were good cops, all bad cops would be seeded out. It's impossible to seed out all bad seeds in any situation though, man. There's bad nurses, there's bad paramedics, there's bad firefighters, my friend. You can't say that there's all good in any department, any profession, anything, any culture, anything. You're always going to have a mix and match. So the cops don't make the laws. They abide by them. Not all cops agree with the laws also. I would argue that some cops don't agree with the laws, but they're maybe a cop because they want to make a difference, maybe. And maybe there's cops that also bend the rules because they don't agree with the laws. I know that for a fact, man. That cop that made that statement about defunding the cops or whatever, the Seattle cop, and then he lost his job because of that. That was a good cop, right? Okay, you're saying you're not saying all cops are bad people in their off time. You're saying, okay, so you're saying all cops are bad when they're on duty? Is that what you're saying? Because that still don't make sense. Yeah, and I agree with you. He lost his job for being a good cop. Exactly. And that's politically motivated, man. Like, I think at the highest level, absolutely, you got more bad seeds and you got people that are they got political motivation and they make more bad choices that don't benefit the citizens at the highest level. But again, talking about politicians at the highest level, there's still some good people in there. What that percentage is, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. It's definitely not all of them though. And when you put anybody in a box in anything, you become naive and you become that ignorant that I was talking about. Whenever you take somebody and put them in a box because of whatever, because they're part of something or they came from something, that's not right. That's not right. And the reason why I say that is I'll use myself as an example. Let's just talk about my history for a little bit. I was a fucking bad kid. I won't even go into the detail, the amount of shit that I've done to victimize people as a child and as a teenager, but I've caused some straight up harm and have victimized people. You wouldn't know it now because I'm not that way anymore. But if someone was to come up to me and say, hey man, I'm going to put you in the box of being a thief, being an abuser, being a fucking victimizer, being this and that, I'll tell them to fuck off. They don't know anything about me. And for them to put me in that box, they don't know shit about me. And if they're going to judge me by the cover, which trust me, I gotta deal with that all the time, dude. It's just not realistic, and there's no growth when you do that. You're not allowing your mind to grow when you do that. You're set in your ways, and that's like old people thinking, man. You're set in your ways, man. You were saying, and you don't think all Nazis are bad on principle. Well, we're talking about, I mean, using a different scenario like that. Let's switch gears. Talking about the Nazis, all the Nazis were definitely bad, but let's just say that there were probably amount of Nazis on there that were misguided, all right? Just like I was as a kid. I was a bad kid. Why was I a bad kid? Because I grew up around crime. I grew up around violence. I grew up around in a city where you had to posture really hard, or you would get beat up. You would get picked on quite a bit, and so misguidance will also take people down a bad path unless they're shown a better path, unless they're shown something different. I'm not saying you also have to pay for your transgressions. You also have to own up to the things that you've done bad, whether or not you were misguided or not. Unfortunately, you have to go through that. So talking about the Nazis, they're all bad, man. I'm just saying there was a portion of those Nazis that probably were misguided because they were either forced into it, or they thought, they literally were incepted that was the right thing to do. And so in their mind, they probably thought that was the right thing to do, unfortunately. But they got to pay for that, you know what I mean? If they ever did. Well, some of them did. They died, obviously, but that's my thought process. It's not, there's layers to this. There's not, you take one person, you put them in a box. That's very ignorant, and I don't want to ever be like that. I catch myself doing that sometimes still because I'm a human being, and I hate when I do that because I don't give my mind any growth when I do that. There's one path, it's very narrow-minded if I do that, and there's no room for growth. It's just not. There's no expanding in that, and I don't ever want to be trapped mentally. I don't ever want to not understand something. I don't ever want to not explore something. I don't ever want to not give somebody the benefit of the doubt also, if I feel like there's some genuine substance to an individual that I feel like there's some good in. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense, man, because I'm breaking this the fuck down, dude. And I'm really surprised to hear someone like you say a statement like all cops are bastards, but then you were saying not all cops are bastards, but are bad people in their off time. Oh, I said it backwards. So you're all not saying all cops are bad people in their off time, so they're good people in their off time. So yeah, again, there's too much judgmental solidification in those statements, and there's no room for growth in that. And so if you think that that's what it is, I would just encourage you to explore more, man, because you're a smart individual. Like, you know what I mean? I got nothing but love for you, dude. Like, I think you're a good human being, and I think you're capable of actually giving people the benefit of the doubt and actually seeking out the goodness in people as well, and on a reasonable level. You know what I mean? If there's someone that's genuinely evil, they don't deserve it, but I think you're smart enough to kind of weed that out, just like I am, you know. And it actually takes a huge amount of your brain to not, you have to put yourself in check when you start doing that. You're like, okay, this person goes here, this person goes there, that's all I'm thinking about them, they're nothing else to me but that. I don't care what they say, it's not going to change my mind. When you start doing that, it's really bad, man. It's just no growth in that. And I think you're the type of individual I think is very capable of growing more mentally. So just my own thoughts and opinions, man. Hopefully you take don't take that as any disrespect, dude, at all. And hopefully I'm not coming across as an idiot or anything like that. But I put a lot of thought into everything that I'm involved in, and right now you got my attention with this topic. So I love this feedback, dude. I love the feedback, by the way, and I love the different perspective, and I love even if we're not in agreement with things, I love that. I love the fact that you're exposing yourself, I'm exposing myself, and we're riffing. That's great, man. But yeah, try not to put people in a box, man. I don't care who it is. For the most part, you can do that. And so, like I said, if we're going to talk about the Nazis and use that as an example, for the most part, you can put all of them in a box just because what they did was horrendous. But if you're really trying to reach for goodness in somebody, like I was in that scenario, I would just say, like, yeah, there's some people that are just completely misguided, man. I was a poorly misguided child, dude, and I committed some fucking horrible acts, like I said. So you would never believe it, but I did. And so I needed the proper guidance, and I got that. And when I did, I became an outstanding individual. So yeah, that stuff goes a long way. Love you too, man. Love you too, dope. I appreciate that, man. I'm gonna switch gears though, man. That was good talk. I'm gonna switch it up to the next topic. And so that was about Kim Wyman. I'm going to talk a little bit about, let's see. So I talked, what did we do? We talked about Kim Wyman. We talked about the vaccine. We talked about, God, do I have enough time for that? Maybe. Quick review here, real quick. I'm going to stick this in there. I don't have time to get into it, and plus I don't really want to get into this topic too much, but man, there's some shows that I'll sit there and binge watch just because I want to use it as a review topic, and it seems interesting. I love documentaries, and I don't know if you guys seen the documentary on Netflix about the Night Stalker. I watched that, and I can't stop watching shit like that. Forensic files and crime, those things really interest me. Not necessarily fiction, but actual stories of documentaries of shit that's actually happened really fascinates me. I don't know why. I'm just interested in the human mind and why they do things. And sometimes you'll never know, but still makes you wonder. But yeah, have you ever watched it, man? It was about that guy that was literally on a killing spree for like a year or so, and they only know about the killings that he did in that time, but that was disgusting to me, dude. I just couldn't believe the type of shit that guy was doing. And also I guess the cops that were trailing him for so long have never seen a guy or an individual, what do you call that, with the likes of that guy's capability. So basically what I mean by that is, he was usually, when you have a serial killer like that, he sticks to a format, and he has preferences, he has things he doesn't deviate from, he has calling cards, he has specific things that stand out to them. Well, this guy didn't. This guy was all over the place. He was killing people. He's killing young people. He's killing old people. He was invading houses. He was kidnapping people. He was raping and molesting children. He was all over the place. This man was a level of evil you wouldn't even be able to fathom. And when I watched this story, I was like, man, this is just sad, dude. It did captivate me. I was like, Jesus, not in a good way either. In a way that's just like, I can't believe this shit. And so, yeah, if you haven't had a chance and you're into hold on, let me reset this computer here. If you're into crime stories and documentaries and true life events, watch The Night Stalker on Netflix. If you know, I will tell you, it's pretty graphic in the story as far as you know, what kind of shit that man did to people, and it's sad. So if you're squeamish and you don't like that type of stuff, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're I don't know if that type of stuff interests you, as far as, you know, why people do that, and just unbelievable amounts of just atrocities, that definitely is one of them. So it was a good documentary, but obviously not for what happened, but it was good because of, you know, they caught the man and they put him down, and they finally, and the way they caught him was great. It just, I mean, I won't give it away, but yeah, I won't get into it, but the way, I'll just say this without trying to spoiler, well, here's a slight spoiler alert. Let's just say the community came together, literally, and stopped this man. And so I was really impressed by that. I was like, wow, that's strong, man, when that happens. And so that was a good ending. But it was still, it just blew me away. Not even the fact of what he did, but even the whole court process was a fucking charade, man. So yeah, it's just a crazy documentary. So just wanted to give a quick little review of that without diving too deep into it. Let's talk, you know, we're getting close to the end here, and I don't know how long my rants are gonna go, but I got a couple rants to talk about here. And let's just start out with my first rant. And this shit irritates me so much when I hear this happen. It irritates me so much. It's one of my biggest pet peeves when I hear it happening. And here's what it is. When I hear individuals use what I call, there must be a term for this too, when they use the opposites talk and the opposites examples in their rhetoric or their music or their speeches. I mean, when I'll give you an example of what I mean. It is so annoying. It's so lazy to me. It's just a cliche way to churn out content without any substance to it. It's a very lazy way to get your point across. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to really get real specific here. The person that stands out to me the most that does this right now, aside from all politicians, they all do this, but man, Biden is really good at this. He uses opposites in his statements all the time. Here's what I mean. When you talk about, he'll be talking, you know, let's talk about unity and not division. Let's talk about light and not dark. Let's talk about hope and not doubt. This is about liberals and not rules. And this man will go on with the opposites for fucking ever. Now, as someone who is irritated with that, I hear that quite a bit, because like I said, I already get irritated when it's in hip hop and music. I'm like, shut up already. Like, you have no substance when you're talking like that. You have no message for me personally when you start doing that. It's just a cookie cut process, man. And this, like I said, I hear Biden do that all the time. You know what I mean? Let's talk about unity, not division, science, and instead of nonfiction, or what, you get the point of what I'm saying. Just opposites all day, all the time. And he's using that in his rhetoric all the fucking time. I honestly don't remember Trump doing that as much. I know politicians do that quite a bit though. And you know who else does it is musicians. And it really bothers me. It's usually just when I hear it, it's usually in the mainstream cookie cut, like, you know, I mean, Biden sounds like a fucking Katy Perry song. Like, you know, it's black and it's white, it's wrong and it's right, you're in and you're out, you're up and down. Like, come on, this fucking retarded. Have some goddamn lyrics that have substance to it. Stop it, people. Stop. You're boring me. And especially Biden already puts me to sleep when I listen to the man. When you start doing the opposites all day with this, you know, black and white and up and down, north, south, backwards, forwards. I mean, when you start doing that and you put that together with his very slow speech, I'm gonna fucking fall asleep, man. My eyes glaze over and I'm like, why am I tried to listen to this for podcast content, but man, I'm about to fall asleep to this shit. And so now do me a favor, if this doesn't bother you already, now that I brought it up, pay attention to the music that you listen to, and next time you hear this, it's gonna really stand out. And listen to Biden, listen to politicians, specifically listen to Biden. He does it all the time. And now that I pointed it out to anybody who has watched this and I brought it to their attention, pay attention to it and really you'll see what I'm talking about. Tell me if it bothers you as much as it does me, especially now that you might know about it. It is just fucking lazy. It is so lazy. If I ever start talking like that, or if I ever start making lyrics to music that's like that, smack me in the mouth, please. I will give you the green light right now to do so. Give me a reality check, because it's lame, it's boring, it's lazy, it's a cheap way of getting a message out, and nobody believes you. It's just when you start doing that, it's just so cookie cut. Like I said, I can't emphasize enough that it's just so fucking boring, and it's just uneventful, unimpressive, all the above. So that's my pet peeve. Sorry, I had to rant about that a little bit because it always bothers me when I hear that shit. All right, so let me move on. Let me get a drink of this first. I'm gonna have to top off this my tea. I had a homeowner give me some wine. We did a commercial job for a winery. Hopefully this doesn't get censored because I just said that, man. Facebook getting really pedantic with one-word statements. But I did a job for that establishment that I just mentioned, and the guy kicked me down a bottle of it, and I told him, I was like, I don't really drink, dude, and I was like, well, I'll take it just for, you know, just for the, I guess the reward of it, you know. He said, here you go, and I'll give this to you. Is, you know, he's got his own establishment, and he's got his all his barrels and his machines that bottles it and processes. It's pretty impressive. And so I got a bottle of that sitting around and kind of waiting for that special moment, right? Be like the movies when I pull it out and be like, yo guys, I've been saving this for a special day. This is the 1916 Poirier. Hey, Poirier. So yeah, I'm kind of waiting for that and try to be all classy like I'm not, you know. I'm not a big God, I'm trying not to say the word so this damn podcast doesn't get muted. That, like I said, that irritates me when that happens. But I'm not a big drinker when it comes to that, especially that type. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting when I actually try it. But still a nice gesture. Very nice of the guy. Maybe I'll try it on the podcast one of these times and give my give a review of it, huh? We'll give my honest opinion, my authentic taste test. Although I know if I did do that, it's probably going to get censored or muted. Now, I've drank other products on the podcast before. Not many times, but a handful of times, and I don't think we got muted. Now I'm curious if we did get muted on those. That would probably be the reason why. It's like I said, Facebook has these really dumb requirements and protocols that you have to follow in order for you to not get your episodes, you know, like shadow banned or whatever, I guess. Not really shadow banned, but another form of shadow banning, basically. But yeah, so I gotta be careful with what I say, apparently, you know, which is kind of, God, don't get me started with that. Freedom of speech bullshit is not actually true, you know what I mean? There's definitely no freedom of speech, and this is definitely not the land of the free. Don't get me started on that either. All right, so let's move on. Now that I'm done with my pet peeve about Biden and musicians doing the opposites bullshit in their statements and their rhetoric. The next thing I'm going to talk about is this is kind of a funny and a lighter note. It's annoying, but it's also kind of funny. So everybody has a friend. At least I think so. It seems like I've ran into this like 3 or 4 times. I don't know if this is probably more of a dude thing than a female's experience. Maybe. I don't know if there is some females that have ran into this. Let me know, because I'd be interested as what type of content they're getting sent. But everybody has that one friend that private messages them porn or grotesque violence, right? You know what I'm talking about. Especially, I think, like I said, if I had to guess, guys are more guilty of this, so they've probably been in that experience more than women. How annoying is that? Well, unless you like that and you're the type of guy that reciprocates that with one of your buddies who's sending that. But me personally, I've always hated that. I'll have a friend that'll just send, DM me. I could think like 4 guys right now that have done that to me. I've never asked for it. I've never even reciprocated like a like or anything. Matter of fact, I usually fucking give an angry face or something like that, or let it be known like, hey, don't send me this shit, dude. I'm not interested. Well, just send me porn, chicks butt naked or doing something, girl, whatever. Just, I'm not interested in porn in my private messages or my DMs, okay? And I'm definitely not interested in grotesque violence, especially unsolicited, all right? I just had that happen to me. There was a kid that I used to know back home from years ago. I probably haven't talked to him in over 10 years, and I seen him on Facebook. I was like, oh yeah, I'll friend him. Friended him, never talked to him still after that. All of a sudden he sends me a message. I was like, oh, you got a message. Maybe I got a message from this guy. Hey, maybe he's like saying, hey, what's up? How you been? It's been a while since we talked. How are things going? Hope all is well. No, it wasn't that. I open it up and I see a picture of a building and a man jumping off this building. And the thing about this shit is you don't know what it is until you actually watch it, right? So you're like, what could this be? Huh? And when it's unsolicited like that, you got to go through the process to know what you're dealing with and to know if it's something you want to see or you don't, right? Well, what I see is a building. I see a man at the very top. He jumps off the building. Everybody's screaming like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? All of a sudden, he goes all the way to the ground. You see him hit the ground and it just makes a loud slam. The sound itself really sticks in my mind now. Some straight traces of death type stuff, right? I never got into that stuff. There's some friends I know they're all into that, traces of death. It's just not my cup of tea, all right? I'm not into people getting shot in the face. I'm not into people getting murdered and just to watch it. I'm not into that shit. I'm into active self-protection, where you're talking about real life scenarios where something bad has happened and there's a lesson from it, where the guy breaks down what you should have done, what you shouldn't have done. This could happen. What would be a better thing to do? That I'm into. But just watching violence for the sake of watching violence, unless it's a movie. Now, a movie I understand is fake. That's why it interests me, because it could be a real scenario. I'm just not interested in watching someone jump off a building, land on the ground, and then the guy walks up with the camera and zoom in on the guy land on the ground, and his fucking arm, I'm not kidding, is completely snapped off and his leg is completely bent backwards and he's alive and he's sitting there screaming and crying, and the guy's mangled beyond. I've never seen anything like that in my life, because I don't want to. But I had to go through that to see it, and apparently that's what the guy was interested in sending me after 10 years of not talking to me. So thank you for that, but no thank you. Don't send it to me again. So yeah, let me know if this has ever happened to you, because I know it has. I cannot be the only one. There's no way in hell I'm the only one that gets this shit. I'm not interested in porn in my DMs, and I'm not interested in violence in my DMs, all right? Unless there's a lesson, a valuable lesson, or there's substance to it, or there's something to take away from that, all right? Rather than just seeing somebody getting hurt or dying. I'm not interested. It's just not something I want to see, especially not in my DMs. You don't expect... A private message in DMs is mainly for talking to people, I think, right? I mean, maybe I don't know the etiquette. I don't know. Maybe I'm behind the times with this. Maybe I don't know, but I don't think I am. Let me know if I'm wrong. But that shit's annoying. So please, guys, stop it, please. And women, if this happens to you, let me know what kind of stuff people are sending you. If there's other women sending you violence or porn, is that a thing in the women's culture, or for women? Let me know, because I'm interested to know what kind of stuff is getting sent to them. But yeah, super irritating. This is one of my rants that I had to get out there. Besides the actual gas prices and tax, raising the taxes and the gas prices, that can be a whole separate that's gonna be a topic. I don't want that to be a rant that's not gonna have enough time to do it justice, if you know what I mean. So we'll go ahead and recycle that for next week's episode, and I'll dive a little bit more into that. This was something I talked about last week, huh? All right, so I'll let you guys know what I find out with. I'm interested to watch the Poirier-McGregor fight and find out what happened. So we'll follow up on that. Probably not next week, because next week I have a guest coming in, and he's a good friend of mine. I don't know if anybody of you guys met him. He's from a local. Some of you guys might know him, but he's from a local band. I met him because the company I was working for at the time, years ago, I think it was probably 5 years ago now, we were doing a huge job. We were remodeling his outdoor, we did siding. The whole house needed resited, built a couple patio covers, raised up his roof, built handrail, and really just improved his outdoor exterior of the house and his outdoor living. So that's how I met him. Super cool guy. I see him here and there, and then lo and behold, he's part of the metal community. I didn't even know it. I actually was reaching out to his band that put out they were looking for a guitarist at that time, and I reached out to them, and I didn't hear anything back. And when I seen him, he mentioned that he was part of that band. I was like, hey, I actually reached out to you guys. I didn't hear back. And he was like, oh yeah, sorry. So that's kind of how it formed, though. He's seen a decal of Black Dahlia Murder and Lamb of God on my truck, and he asked me, hey dude, you into metal? And I was like, yeah dude, you into metal? Right on. And it just formed from there. So the guy's done really, in my opinion, he's real selfless. He's helped me out with a couple projects with the band too, and hasn't ever asked me for anything, and I tried giving him something for it, and the guy really didn't take anything for it, and he put a lot of his own time into the project. And I was like, wow dude, I really appreciate that. There's not anybody who does that. If you need anything from me, I can help you, let me know. So pretty outstanding dude. I'm excited to have him here, chat with him a little bit about his life, chat with him a little bit about his band, his musician, where he's at with music right now, what he's doing, all these basic questions that interest me right now in people's lives. How work's going, how this last year's affected his life, all these things that are nice to have a conversation with a guest about, right? So keep an eye out for him. We will be here next Saturday at 7:00 to do that episode with him, and it's been the first guest I've had in like a month or probably 6 weeks now, maybe, I don't know, but so I want to just keep it going with a guest every month. Hopefully you can keep that consistency going. And by the way, Edgar, if you're still here, we need to get you on the episode, my bro, especially because we could be talking about, I would love to have you on, because if you were here when we were talking about something like this, about the protest, or excuse me, about the cops in particular. That'd be a cool conversation to actually have in person with you, man. So when we gonna get you on, man? The seat is warm. I'm gonna warm it up for you. It's here. We're waiting. Let's make a day. Let's get it locked in. Drive over here. Scoot on over. Let's make a day of it. If you need a crash here for the night, whatever, we'll make it happen, dude. Let's get that going sometime in the near future, and let's make the time for it, man. Because I think you got a lot of stuff to offer too, and you're an interesting guy. So, yeah, let's bring it. Get your ass out here, man. Just let me know. Like I said, let's set up a date. I've reduced it now to Saturdays, so I don't do Wednesdays anymore. So it's a little bit easier for me because I got a lot going on. So yeah, just pick a Saturday one of these times. You know, it could be February, it could be March. It can be a few months out if we need to be. Let's just lock it in and commit to it and get you over here, man. Bring some of your artwork. Let's talk about your projects. Let's talk about what you've been doing, what you're going to do. Let's expose you, man. Let's exploit you. So yeah, dude. And by the way, it's been a good talk also with you on this podcast too. So like I said, I like when people reciprocate topics with me and talk a little bit about their thought process and their viewpoints, because I love alternate perspectives, man. So I really appreciate you putting yourself out there like that, dude. Really respect that. So all right, well, I think I'm coming down to wrapping this one up. This was episode 56, and like I said, we're gonna keep the momentum rolling. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Glad you can participate. Hopefully that sewing experience went well too, man. Hopefully I didn't distract you. But sometimes Snakes, I guess he listens to these podcasts, he said, while he's working or something like that, while he's doing stuff. So I guess he enjoys listening to him as well. So but yeah, man. Thanks again, and love to have you back. If you're not doing anything on Saturdays at 7 to 9, any part of that time, and you're welcome to hop on, have some conversations with me. Invite some friends, share the page, man. Spread the love. See if we can get some more people up in here in these conversations, dude, because I love multiple perspectives on these topics. So, all right, well, before we get out of here, you can find us. I keep saying us, but it's just me. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. All right. Give us a search, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a share, and subscribe. In case I didn't say that already, subscribe. That's the biggest thing. So I'm going to get out of here. I will see you next Saturday with our guest. For that episode, I'll do a promo post here in the next couple days to kind of get that moving and get people's expectations for that the guest podcast. And yeah, I'm excited. So I'll chat with you guys on Saturday. See you then. But until then, keep it viral and keep it contagious. See you guys later, Edgar.